Hi friends, this is Atma Prakash, your teacher for the subject English. You know friends, some principles, some ideas or some lessons may change your lives. Today, in this session, you will learn about a new life changing principle that may give a new direction and new vision to your lives. Now friends, can you give me some examples of life-changing principles? To get answer to such a question of mine, I suggest reading the lesson Standing Up for Yourself written by Yevgeny Yevtushenko. This prose piece is one of the most suitable topics for teenagers like you. I mean, for the young minds like you who are in their formative years. Truly speaking, I really feel much excited to share all the valuable ideas which are included in this prose piece, Standing Up for Yourself. Do you know what the central idea of this prose piece is? In one sentence, I can say it is prepare yourself and then face your fears. Prepare yourself and then face your fears. That is the central theme of this prose piece. As mentioned before, the writer of this essay, Standing Up for Yourself, is Yevgeny Yevtushenko. He was a multi-talented personality. He was a Russian poet. He was a novelist. He was an essayist. He was a dramatist. He was a screenwriter. He was an actor, editor, and a director of films. As Yevgeny was skilled in so many fields, we can rightly call him a multifaceted personality or a multi-talented personality. This essay, Standing Up for Yourself, masterfully, very skillfully depicts the author's real life transformation. In this prose piece, we explore how the author goes through a transformation from timidity to boldness, from diffidence to confidence, and from weakness to strength. Yes, friends, this is a transformation. The author goes through a transformation from timidity to boldness, from diffidence to confidence, and from weakness to strength. This prose piece finely chronicles, mentions how the author overcame his weakness and transformed himself into a robust personality who can stand up for himself. The author, Yevgeny Yevtushenko, was born in 1933. Remember the birth year, 1933, and passed away in 2017. However, this information about his year of death, that is 2017, may not have been updated in your books if your textbooks are printed prior to 2017. However, in your textbook, the prose piece Standing Up for Yourself is divided into 4 units for your easy understanding. In the first unit of the said prose, we are informed about 3 things. What are they? The first thing is about the locality where the writer lived. The second thing is about the writer's disturbed childhood or his disturbed family life. And the third thing is about his disturbed educational life. The unit 1, which we will analyze in this session, will inform you three things. Remember, the first one is about the locality where the writer lived. The second thing is about the writer's disturbed childhood and his disturbed family life. And the third thing is about his disturbed educational life. Let us now read the first line of the prose text. The first line of the prose piece is, in 41, I was living alone in an empty flat in a quiet Moscow street. This is the first line. In 41, I was living alone in an empty flat in a quiet Moscow street. With this line, your unit 1 of standing up for yourself begins. In this opening sentence, the author informs us a lot of things like the time of action, his living conditions, and the name of the place. In 41 means in 1941. This indicates the time of action. It means it was during the year 1941. If you read the story, you will find that in this prose piece, the author tells his own story. Yes, it is the author's personal story. He tells his own life experiences. You can mark it in the very first sentence of the story when the author says, I was living alone in an empty flat in a quiet Moscow street. Please mark the use of the word I. Yes, the unit 1 starts with the subject I. This suggests that the author recounts, the author tells his own story. The subject I is none other than the author himself. Such a narrative or a story in which the author tells the story from his own point of view is called a first person narrative. Remember, this is a technical term, a first person narrative, where the author starts the narrative with the subject I. Hence, standing up for yourself is a first person narrative. In the same sentence, which we were reading few minutes back, we are told that the author lives all alone. He leads a lonely life. There is no family member nor parents to look after him. And this idea of loneliness, this idea of staying alone is highlighted by phrases like empty flat and quiet street. Empty flat suggests loneliness. Quiet street suggests loneliness. There is an undertone of loneliness, solitary life. Some way or the other, these phrases strengthen the idea of staying alone. The author further writes, my parents were divorced. Author writes, and this is the direct text, let me go through it. My parents were divorced and my father was somewhere in Kazakhstan with his new wife and their two children, I seldom received letters from him. Let us understand this piece. I think there is nothing difficult to understand in these two lines. First point, the writer's parents were divorced. It means the writer's parents were separated and they were not staying together. Second point, his father was staying in Kazakhstan with his new family. The writer doesn't know the exact location of his father. Yes, the writer doesn't know the exact location of his father. That's why he says, my father was somewhere in Kazakhstan with his new wife and their two children. Dear students, underline the expression somewhere. Please refer your text and see that in that sentence the expression somewhere is there. Somewhere in Kazakhstan. This expression reveals that the writer doesn't know the exact location of his father. Therefore, he says somewhere in Kazakhstan. Such a description, such a narration suggests that the writer did not share a close relationship with his father. Such a description is suggestive of that the writer did not share a strong relationship, close relationship with his father. This is an important point and sometimes questions are asked basing on this point. The next sentence is, I seldom received letters from him. You go through the text, you will find that sentence, I seldom received letters from him. Students, this sentence is a model sentence which will help you learn the use of the word seldom. Remember that the word seldom is equal to almost never. Seldom is equal to almost never. When the author says, I seldom received letters from him, there the author wants to say that he almost never received letters from his father. The word seldom gives a negative meaning. Let me explain it once again. When the author says, I seldom received letters from him, there the author wants to say that he almost never received letters from his father. Dear students, remember the words like seldom, hardly, little, never, scarcely, rarely. These words are called negative adverbs. When they are used in a sentence, they give a negative meaning to the sentence. Yes, seldom, hardly, little, never, scarcely, rarely. These type of negative adverbs are when used in a sentence, it will give a negative meaning to the sentence. So when the author tells, I seldom received letters from him, this is the sentence which you can find in your text. It is written there, I seldom received letters from him. There the author wanted to say that he almost never received letters from his father. He almost never received letters from his father. In the next sentences, the author throws light on her mother. The narrator writes, "My mother was at the front. She had given up her work as a geologist to become a singer and was giving concerts for the troops." Now the author shares information about his mother's location. His mother was at the front. His mother was at the front. And here the word front doesn't mean the front part of something. This doesn't mean something which comes at the beginning. It is not that front. My mother was at the front. The word front doesn't mean its usual meaning, such as the face of something or the front part of something. In this sentence, the word front refers to a place where two armies are fighting a war. It is a place where two armies are fighting a war. In other words, front is the line of contact of two opposing forces. It is told that author's mother gave up the job of a geologist. But what does the word geologist mean? Geologist. What does the word geologist mean? Geologists study the materials, processes, products, physical nature, and history of the earth. An expert in geology is a geologist. And the writer's mother left the job of a geologist to become a singer. Writer's mother left the job of a geologist to become a singer, and she was giving concerts for the troops. The word concert may be a hard point for you to understand. The word concert means a musical entertainment which is usually performed in public. A musical entertainment which often given before a public, and his mother was giving public performances, giving concerts for the troops. So this is the information what the author gives about his mother. Afterwards, the writer mentions about his disturbed childhood. Yes, the writer's childhood was disturbed, and his education was also disturbed. In the words of author, if you refer the text, you will find there is written, "My education was left to the street. The street taught me to swear, smoke, spit elegantly through my teeth, and to keep my fist at the ready, a habit which I have to this day." Once again, I am giving a read. I am reading it so that you can understand better. My education was left to the street. The street taught me to swear, smoke, spit elegantly through my teeth, and to keep my fist at the ready, a habit which I have to this day. In this part, the writer mentions that he had no formal education like you. You are very fortunate that you are getting formal educations. You are able to go to schools and colleges. These type of programs are being conducted to give you education. So this is a part of formal education, but the writer was not fortunate enough to get such type of formal education. You go to a school or a college to get education, but the writer had no such scope. He was staying all alone. No father, no mother, all alone. His parents were divorced. Therefore, what he learnt in life, he learnt it from the streets. The street was the center of education for him. Yes, the street was the center of education for him. Because of this reason, the writer says, my education was left to the streets. This is the reason why the writer says, my education was left to the streets. In the succeeding sentences, in the next sentences, he further specifies that the street taught him to swear. What is swear? Use offensive language. Smoke, the act of smoking tobacco, for example, a cigarette or cigar, that is smoking, and spit. Spit means eject saliva. The saliva, what is in your mouth, eject it forcibly from your mouth through his teeth and to keep his fist at the ready. This is fist, and to keep the fist always ready. It is a habit which is with him till date. Till date, the author has this habit of keeping his fist at the ready. That means the habit of keeping oneself ready for a fight at any moment continues till this date. Then the writer reveals a great lesson. Yes, a great lesson that the street has taught him. A great lesson that the street has taught him. The lesson is not to be afraid of anything or anyone. Yes, the lesson is not to be afraid of anything or anyone. The line that carries this message is, please refer the text, the street taught me not to be afraid of anything or anyone. It is another habit I have kept. This idea is further explained in the next sentence. The author says, this idea is more concentrated in the next sentence. Students, at the end of unit 1 of this chapter, there are 7 questions. Yes, after reading, at the end of this unit, you will find 7 questions. We can discuss those questions now for better comprehension. By discussing those questions, once again, we will recapitulate the things which will enhance our understanding. The first question is the narrator a child or an adult narrating his childhood experiences? Again, I am reading the question, is the narrator a child or an adult narrating his childhood experiences? You have to pinpoint your answer, whether the narrator is a child or an adult. Now, let me explain you students, let me also give you some hints which will help you write the answer. The narrator cannot be a child. The narrator is not a child. Why? He is an adult who is narrating his past experiences, and it is evident, it is clear from the first line of the prose, where the narrator mentions the year of action to be 1941. That's why the narrator is not a child, he is an adult. Let us go to the first line of the prose piece and examine the things. The first line is, in 41, I was living alone in an empty flat in a quiet Moscow street. From this line, it is very much clear that the author is describing his past experiences. The author is describing his past experiences when he was a child. So, the past experiences of a child is described now by an adult narrator. So, it will help you, this explanation will definitely help you write the answer of the first question. Now, let us come to the second question. The second question is, does the narrator have happy experiences in his childhood? Why? Why not? So, it is an open-ended question. Whether it is a happy experience packed childhood or it was an unhappy childhood, you have to answer. Let me tell you, this is a subjective question. Yes, friend, this is a subjective question, students. Its answer may differ from person to person. Some students may think that the writer was happy as he had no school, no homework tension. He was free like a bird. No one was there to check or censor his actions. On the contrary, some other students may find the writer to be unhappy. For some other students, they may find the writer to be unhappy because he had to live alone without the love and care of his parents. He did not have the chance to study in a school. He roamed in the streets and learned all those activities which society may not approve. To one question, I presented two possible answers from two viewpoints. I presented two opposing views, or I presented two opposing interpretations, but both of them can be correct. And this is the beauty of life. You can view life from different angles. Let me explain my point by presenting a beautiful experiment. Just take a glass of water. No, don't take a glass of water, just take a glass. Now, here is a glass, and let me fill it half with water. Let me fill it half with water. Yes, very nice. A glass, it is filled with some water. If someone says the glass is half filled, if someone says the glass is half filled with water, then he is correct. But if someone says this glass is half empty, one interpretation. Someone says this glass is half filled with water, then he is correct, he is not wrong. Similarly, when someone says this glass is half empty, he is also correct. And another person, if he says this tumbler is half filled with water and another half is filled with air, then he is also correct. So, all the interpretations are correct, just the viewpoints are different. My purpose of such explanation is to make a point that you can view a writer's experience in your own way. Yes, you have your own thinking, you have your own interpretation. Please do not stick rigidly to the viewpoints of your teacher or any guidebook. Underline this thing. Please do not stick rigidly to the viewpoints of your teacher or any guidebook. Develop your own thinking. But, be logical. If you are not logical, then the whole system will collapse. Be logical and give your interpretation, and if that interpretation is different from others also, then stand up for it. This is a message, a golden message of this chapter. Then friends, another thing, my point is the answer to this question is possible in both ways. The question which we were discussing, its answer is possible in both ways, but you can view writer's experience as happy or unhappy. That depends upon you. That depends upon your thinking. You are free to take your own stand in interpreting the question, but support your arguments with proper textual reference. Read the text, find the lines, find the phrases which are supporting your argument, just mention them and logically present your answer. Because whenever we teach English literature or any language to the students, we always pitch the point to be logical, to be creative, and to present your views in well connected manner. This thing is possible if and only if you are giving textual references. The third question is, what was his relationship with his father? Friends, I am moving to the third question. Please find the third question in your textbook. That question is, what was the relationship with his father? In the text, the author is very direct about his relationship with his father. If you go through the text, you will find that very categorically, very directly, the author describes his relationship with his father. The writer clearly mentions that he seldom received letters from his father. We also have additional information that his father lived separately with his new wife and their children. All these things show that the author had no good relationship with his father. All these evidences show that the author had no good relationship with his father. Now, let us move to the fourth question. The fourth question is, how did his mother spend her time? Yes, the fourth question is, how did his mother spend her time? This is a direct question. If you go to line 4 in the unit 1 of the text, you will find the following lines. The lines are, my mother was at the front. She had given up her work as a geologist to become a singer and was giving concerts for the troops. This part in the text contains the answer. You can write, the writer's mother spent her time in singing, and giving concerts for the troops. This will be the answer. The writer's mother spent her time in singing and giving concerts for the troops. The fifth question, this is the end of the fourth question. Now, let us go to the fifth question. The question is, what does my education was left to the street mean? This is a very important question. Let me explain it and end it. The question is, what does my education was left to the street mean? Friends, I have already discussed the writer was living alone. Nobody was there to take his care. His parents were divorced. He had no access to school. As a result, the street had become the only place where he could learn something. Yes, the street was the only place where he could learn something. Therefore, it is said that my education, that means the author's education, was left to the streets. But one thing must be noted, that the street taught the writer both good things and bad things. Now, let us move to the sixth question. The sixth question is, as per your textbook, what were the two habits, yes, two habits that remained with him all his life, that remained with the author all his life? Let me again read the question so the understanding will be better. What were the two habits that remained with the author all his life? The answer to this question can be found in 6th, 7th and 8th line of the text. If you have textbook, then please refer your text. Go to line number 6, then read line number 7, again read line number 8. You can understand and can answer this question confidently. The exact words in line number 6, 7 and 8, let me read it out. My education was left to the street. The street taught me to swear, smoke, spit elegantly through my teeth, and to keep my fist at the ready, a habit which I have to this day. The street taught me not to be afraid of anything or anyone. This is another habit I have kept. Let me read it once again, so the things are ingrained in your mind. My education was left to the street. The street taught me to swear, smoke, spit elegantly through my teeth, and to keep my fist at the ready, a habit which I have to this day. The street taught me not to be afraid of anything or anyone. This is another habit I have kept. Dear friends, dear students, it is clear from the given lines that the two lifelong habits that the street taught the author were to keep himself prepared for every situation. To keep himself prepared for every situation. This is one important habit. And the second one was the habit of not fearing anything or anyone. Yes, at the beginning of my class, I had told you that if you go through this unit, you will learn some life-changing principles, some ideas, some lessons which may change your life altogether. Here, in these two lines, in the form of habits which has been described, you get those precious life lessons to keep oneself prepared for every situation. This is habit number 1. And the habit number 2 is the habit of not fearing anything or anyone. Dear students, this is not just a class of English subject. These things make our life. These are the values which can take us to the Himalayan heights, which can give an alembic touch, and we will turn into gold. Now, dear students, let us come to the last question of this unit. The last question is, what is your opinion? What, in your opinion, was the best lesson that the street taught to the narrator? The last question is, what, in your opinion, was the best lesson that the street taught to the narrator? In our previous question, in question number 6, we learnt 2 important lessons. There are 2 important lessons which the street had taught the author. Now, I won't tell you the answer. Yes, this time I am not going to tell you the answer. You have to stand on your own feet. Now, you have to choose one lesson which seems to be the best one to you. The choice will be yours. You can choose any one lesson, but you have to substantiate, you have to support, you have to prove your points by giving some proper reasons. Previously, I have pointed out these things. You can write your answer, but prove them giving textual reference. That same thing you can do. You can choose any one lesson, but you have to prove that why you liked that lesson most. With this, the first unit of the prose piece, Standing Up for Yourself, ends. Thank you all for being with me. See you in the next session. Bye.